um, designing your story from opening spread to jump spread. And so right now I have opened up on my computer a magazine that I've designed recently, and I just wanted to kind of go through some of the pages that I've designed and kind of point out the things that you want to be aware of when designing your own magazine. So in this one, we have a headline that's going across the gutter right here. And so notice that I've given it a little extra space so that it's not going all the way into the gutter. These two guides right here and here are guides that I've created so that I know exactly where to put photo credits. And so I'm thinking that the last letter here shouldn't go too far beyond that guide, and shouldn't go too far beyond that guide on this side, so we have room for this to kind of go into the gutter and not cut off these two letters. So whenever you're doing a headline across two pages, make sure that you maintain that space right there. And so I've got a headline, I've got a deck head, I have a photo credit and a byline, so the story and the photos are by the same author. I have a caption down here with a little outer glow or outer shadow. Sometimes white type does not reproduce very well when on a lighter background, and this is the best place to put a caption is in the dead space. So I've added an outer glow but turned it into an outer shadow. So if I click on this and I go, wait a second, and I go up to object and effects, you can see that there's an outer glow here. Now effects usually mean bad, but sometimes some effects are useful. So in this outer glow, if I open this up, an outer glow usually has something shows up as a screen, and I change this blending to multiply, and multiply basically says whatever is behind here is going to be multiplied on top of this black. And so this black starts out at 100% really close to the letter forms and then spreads out, and this spread can go up and down. And as I kind of hit these up and down, oh, I got to show preview. You can see that as I adjust that spread, how much darker that's getting. And it's growing out exponentially. So you don't want to be too heavy-handed, so that's why I only have it set at 10%. And then the size, if I hit the up arrow on this, you can see that the size kind of adjusts how far out that blur goes. So I have it down to, I think it was close to that. So that's creating an outer shadow as opposed to an outer glow. The outer means that it's spreading out from beyond the type. I'm gonna hit cancel on this. The next step is, when you're designing this magazine, I want you to not have any of the story on the opening spread. The opening spread is basically a big picture, a headline, a deck head, photo credit, byline, and if there's any caption information. So as I'm choosing photographs, I got to figure out a photograph that does not have any important information in the gutter. So as you see, I have the edge of the painting right here. So there's really nothing of any importance right here. So those are the things you got to keep track of. And so as we go down, so here's the opening spread, and here's the jump spread. And as in my lecture, you got to find design elements from the opening spread to bring into the jump spread. So this slanted eye in that blue-gray is coming from, oops, going too far. This blue-gray typeface, and I pulled out a color from this car using the eyedropper. You basically highlight the type and then go to the eyedropper and then click on a color, and it'll change it to that color. So that blue-gray, it seems like a very, kind of a gray day, so it seemed to work well. There's a lot of blue here in the painting. And so on the next page, we have the jump spread. And notice that I have 2 columns right here, so it's 5 columns here and 5 columns here broken down into 2 columns. So I'm using 10 of my 12. Gives me 2 columns on the side here for incidental stuff, like I've got this little map area and caption information. And notice that the photos are always adhering to the grid. They're all lining up to the grid. They're lining up to the columns, not to the gutters. So this is right, but if I do this, this is wrong because it's going into the gutter. You want to make sure that you're adding a number of columns together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those columns are creating that space for that car. Just like here, we have 10 columns going all the way across. We have 2 columns over here for the captions, and this body copy is in one text box that is broken up into 2 gutters. And you can see over here as I select that text box up here, it's set to 2 gutters, and right now it's in inches. I'm going to change that back to picas. So if you have your rulers up here, if you don't have your rulers, Command R will bring the rulers up, and in this crosshair, if I right click or control click, I can change the units of measurement, and I'm going to change it back to picas because that's what I prefer. And so we can see over here that I have 2 columns, and notice that my gutters are 1p4. For you guys, I would suggest that you stay with the default of 1 pica, what you set up your grids to be. I just add a little bit more space because I like extra white space. So you can see that within this design, we also have this kind of hierarchy of photography. You always want to have something big, medium, and small. So I have big, medium, small. And then if I go to the next page, I have big, medium, small. Here's the next opening spread, and this time I have the headline on one page, and I have this kind of light box kind of jutting in, bleeding in from the edge. It helps kind of separate the typeface from the photograph a little bit. If I hit the W key, you'll be able to see what it looks like a little bit better. Got a little caption down here. Now this white caption is on a dark enough background that I don't need to have that outer glow on there. And so again, where's the photo crossing over? It's crossing over right here in the middle of the car. Nothing really that important that's being lost. I'm grabbing the color of the orange off of the car for the headline. That orange. Now this time, instead of me doing a drop cap, I just created this text box and added a letter here and in this kind of 2-column space for captions. This is another way of kind of bringing yourself into the story. And you can see here, even this little thumbnail headshot of this guy is adhering to 2 columns of the 12-column grid. And when you're bringing photos into a column, so here we can jut into the other column. You just don't want to jut in too far to make this too narrow, but I'm jutting in, and again, I'm maintaining the grid so it's lining up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns of the 12-column grid. But again, we have big, medium, small, smallest. Go to the next page, and we have big, medium, small, even smaller. We're still maintaining. Notice that the column grids never change. They're always 2 columns on a 5-column. So you never want to go from 3 columns of type on one side to 2 columns of type on the other side. Here's another opening spread, and again, where is that photo crossing over? Notice that I'm not cutting into this little car in the background, but we are kind of crossing over into this dead space of these cars. I'm taking graphic elements from the photo into the headline. So we've got this yellow type on a black car, and so I've got yellow type with a black outline on it. If we go hit the W key, you can see how that's kind of reinforcing what's going on down here. We have the deck head, we have the byline and the photo credit, and notice that the byline is different than the photo credit. So we're differentiating one from the other. We have a caption over here, and so we go to the next page. And so here's an example of me kind of bringing the intro of the story into this, and this typeface is a little bit bigger. It has a little bit more leading, but as the story goes, you know, it is broken into pieces. So this is the intro to one of the pieces, and then here is the starting point of that piece. So I can kind of break the grid a little bit, so I'm not doing it in the 5 columns all the way across. I'm doing it in a narrower column. I'm using this T, and there's a little rectangle right here that is has a text wrap on it, so it's kind of pushing the type over, and that's how I want you to separate your type from images, is with a text wrap. And so we go to the next page. So each page is a part unto itself. So this is another section. Here's a section header. Here's another section with a section header, big, medium, small. And then here's the final page, and this section is going over 2 pages. And you know, this sidebar right here is kind of considered like a big picture. And so we have this, and then we have this, and then this, and then this. So there's a little bit of a differentiation. Notice that these two are kind of similar in size, but they're far enough apart so they're not kind of fighting against each other.